All right. The third question is, well, you guys did poorly on this one, mainly because it's a conversion, but it's not just a conversion. It is about square unit, all right? So if you, let's say if you have this one, 1 meter, you can get 100 centimeter. And it's very simple. If you just round it up and you just say 2 meter, you have 200 meter, it's 200 centimeters. And the same thing goes for 3 meter and so on. And if you get 3 decimeter and you have 1 meter, one decimeter is equals to 10 centimeter. You can just cross multiply and you just bridge from 1 meter equals 100 centimeter, 1 decimeter equals 10 centimeter. As a result, 3 decimeter equals 0.3 meter. It's very simple, 0.3 meter. Okay. But when it comes to square units, it's a bit more difficult than that, right? So square unit, you can't directly compare the whole unit to the square unit. So let's boil down. This is how you're going to remember how to do the conversions thing. Let's boil down what is a unit. Say, if I give you this unit, coulomb per second, this is in physics and this is equals to an ampere. All right. So if I give you a unit, you'll be very easily able to form a formula of conversion from this unit. So how can I come up with 1A? I just plug in a certain amount of C over a certain amount of S. In this physical term, it will be Coulomb, which is in Q, and S will be in T, and it will be an ampere. And for a more familiar equation, you have velocity. Velocity equals to the distance divided by time. So velocity equals distance divided by time. You have the unit of velocity is either kilometer per second, meter per second, or kilometer per hour. And you can very easily assume the formula from this one. For example, kilometer per hour, meaning 1 kilometer divided by 1 hour. So how can you convert from kilometer an hour to kilometer a second? So let's rewind a bit. 1 kilometer per hour per 1 hour, like this. You just have to come up with a ratio equals with 1 kilometer. This stays the same, right? 1 kilometer is 1 kilometer, but 1 hour equals to how many seconds? An?
3,600.
Exactly, 3,600. 100 second. So as a result, you get 1 kilometer per hour equals 1 over 3,600 kilometer per second. The same thing goes for meter per second, meter per hour, and everything like that. This is the basis of conversion. You just rely on the unit. So how does this relate to the square unit? For example, I give you kilometer, square meter. How much is 1 squared meter in terms of 1 squared centimeters? Can you tell me, Lina?
One has a scale.
Are you sure? Because 1 meter to 1 centimeter is supposed to be larger, right?
100 squared.
100 squared, like this?
Yes.
Exactly, because you have the unit. Let's see, the unit is squared. So you multiply the number to itself. Very easy. And you just rewind this back to this one. 1 mile equals to 1,760 yards. So they're asking to convert 4.36 square miles to square yards. So essentially, if you're making mistakes on this one, meaning that you haven't understood the basis of conversion. So as for Lina, she has done it correctly. So let's see your explanation, right? How did you, let me just copy it, 4.36 square miles. Let me just summarize it. 4.36 square miles squared equals to how many square yards? Given that 1 mile equals 1760. Yeah. All right. How are you going to approach this, Lina?
It is equal to what 4.36 times 1760 square.
1760 squared.
Yes.
Right. So you're converting from this to square miles to square yard, right? Because you can't directly cross multiply if they have the different units. In this case, square yard and yard, they are not the same. Square miles and mile, they are not the same either. So you're gonna have to take a medium step. So in this case, you convert from miles to mile squared to yard squared. Square yard, essentially you have 1 squared mile equals to
1760 square.
1760 squared, exactly. And how you do it?
4 times
4.36
4.36 times 1760 square.
and divided by 1, right? Exactly. This is cross multiply. You just multiply 4.36 to this one and then divide in the horizontal aspect on the horizontal line, okay? So essentially on a kind of typical conversion lesson, you have, for example, 1 mile equals 7060 square yard, I'm sorry. How much is 2 mile when it comes to yard? You just cross multiply 2 to 1760 and divide them by 1 because this is cross multiply. If this is in question, you cross multiply the 2 like that. You can very easily form the shape, right? So this is how you're going to cross multiply. But in this case, you're going to have to do a secondary step, which means to convert from mile to mile squared mile and to squared yard, and then you do the cross multiply. And that's how you come up with the D, right? After calculation, you're going to come up with D. So if you choose A or B, that means you haven't converted it to squared miles and squared yards. So please note on this one. Next up will be this one, the 5th question. This is very familiar, but this is very, all right? So I'll show you what essentially this kind of question asking about. They're asking about, they give out an equation. Let's generalize it. Firstly, you have an equation. Let me use red pen because I love red more than I do blue. Y equals x squared plus, let's say a, let's give this a, and let's give this bx plus c, all right? You get a, b, and c. This is one equation. And you have, I'm going to give you another. Dx minus e. So how am I going to find the intersections between these two graphs? Anyone have any idea? No one has any idea? How can I find the intersection between two graphs? For example, if this one has this shape and this one has this shape, how can I find these 2 points? How can I do it? No one knows. All right, so because they are intersecting, so they're going to have an equal value of y and an equal value of x, right? So if I let the two y's equal, because this side will equal to y, on the right side, it will be equal to the left side. And in our case, we have the two y's, y1 and y2, equal to each other. So let's combine these into one. Dx minus e equals ax squared plus bx plus c. This would, is this like an icon or something? I think it's recognized my hand. Oh, look. Oh, pretty cool. All right. Next one, how can I delete this? Never mind. Next up is that you have equalized these equation. And you can see that these equations form one single equation. In this case, it's very difficult because I place it D, E, A, B, C. Let's give it a practical example. Let's say y1 equals x squared plus 2x minus 3. And y2 equals x minus, no, plus 4. And if I want to find the intersection between these two graphs, I'm going to have to equalize these two equations, which is x plus 4 equals x squared plus 2x minus 3. All right. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to solve this quadratic equation, move everything to one side and then solve using your calculator or using by hand, any way you like. X squared plus x minus 7. Let's see if this has any result. Wait a sec. 1 minus 7. And this does in fact have very bad set of solutions. -1 minus or plus square root of 29 over 2. All right. These are the 2 points. 2 points of x, 2x values. So this will give us 2 values of y, y1 and y2, right? Just by plug in -1 minus square root of 29 over 2 to this one, either one of these equation, either one will do because they have the same y value. So you can choose one over another, or just use -1 plus square root of 29 over 2, and you're gonna have the second y point coordinate. And in conclusion, you're gonna have 2 points, which are the 2 intersections. So essentially, the number of the solution from the resulting equation from this one, after you've equalized these 2 equations, will be the number of intersection, right? Because each x gives each y. You have 3 x's, you can have 3 y's. And if you want have 1 x, you're going to have 1 y. So the number of solution of this resulting equation will be equal to the number of intersection between these graphs, right? So the next time you see a question about intersections, intersects the line y equals c at exactly 1 point, for example, meaning that the equation c equals minus x squared plus 9x minus 100 will have exactly 1 solution, right? So Tom, can you briefly mention how can we find the solution, the number of solution of this equation?
You can find the number of the solution by use the delta formula.
Exactly, the delta. So when will it have 2 solutions?
The delta is larger than 0.
Is bigger than 0, exactly. How about 1 solution?
It's equal 0.
Equals 0 and not any solution.
And it's smaller than 0.
Exactly. So the remaining, right? So In this case, I'm asking for 1 point. So how are you going to solve this, Tom? Can you briefly remind me this case? How can you calculate the delta?
The B square minus 4A divided C.
For a what?
C.
For a c,
AC.
exactly. A times c, okay? So you have this, b squared minus 4ac is the formula for the delta. Have you learned this at school, An?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so everyone is on the same page now. So this will be the delta. So we have 1 point is meaning delta equals 0. And b is, what is b, done?
9.
9 squared minus
Minus 1
times minus 1 times,
times minus 100.
what else?
That's all.
You missed this.
Minus C.
Exactly, minus c. So you have equals 0. This will equal 0. So you have this with 1. This is solve for c, basically solve for c, right? This one, solve for c. And you just type in the calculator, or you just use it by hand if you're good, but I'm not good. So I'm going to use the calculator. 9 squared minus 4 times minus 1 minus 100 minus x equals 0. And I have minus 79 point equals c is minus 79.75. So it is c, right? It's c. It's c, right? Right. Yep, it's c. So this will be c when they ask for exactly 1 point, meaning they will require one solution in this equation, right? Let that sink in, because this will be very simple and I won't be mentioning it again, right? Next up is going to be the 9th question. So this one, some of you did ask me, to be honest, this one is quite tricky for many of you because look, the phrasing is odd and this is not familiar with any of you, what any of you might have encountered, but this is essentially why you have to read each and every single word in an SAT math section very carefully, because on a very short kind of question, on a very short prompt, you're not going to waste too much time on it. So please be careful. So I'm going to follow my mantra of reading from bottom up. Which function models the number of minutes it will take one to ride X miles at this rate? So I'm not having any context right now, so I would assume that I'm going to need to read the rest. Read the above top. For a training program, one rides his bike at an average rate of 5.7 minutes per mile. All right, this is 5.7 minutes per mile. So you're going to have to summarize the prompt, because if not, you're going to have a hard time understanding and not getting it mistaken. Firstly, 5.7 is minutes, and per mile, meaning 5.7 minutes, you're going to have 1 mile. And M models the number of minutes it would take to ride X miles at this rate. So it's very simple, just another conversion. X miles is how many minutes, right? Minutes. So mx equals to what, x divided by 5.7, right? X divided by 5.7 will be the resulting equation from this one. So A is the correct answer, right? If you guys made a mistake on that one, let that sink in, because it's very, to be honest, you just need to summarize the prompt into 1 or 2 lines like this, and that you will be able to convert it quite accurately and quite quickly. And if you just read the question as is and not linearly, just read it without any sort of summarization, you're going to have a hard time understanding the different conversions and different wordings of the prompt. All right, so very simple. If you don't do this step of which I suggest you do, you just need to just underline the keys. But on the digital SAT, you can't really underline anything because it's on the machine. So you're going to scrub that down and jot that down and summarize the question. All right. All right, that's essentially it. You guys did fairly well on the exam, and I did fix some sort of errors for you guys privately, and I would hope you guys keep up the good pace, because it was fairly good. Even though it's just the beginning of the very long journey, you guys did quite well. All right, so let's jump to today's lesson, which is digital reading and writing. And let's see. Today we're going to learn about, I haven't imported it. Today we're going to learn a bit about, just a bit of revision about, hang on, reading, writing, new lessons. Firstly, we're going to learn about the transitions. All right. Transitions in this case will be quite focused on this, quite specialized, because on the digital SAT, you only have one paragraph per one question. So it will be a bit more tricky. It will be a bit more trippy, if I might say, because this is a specialized question and it only tests you about one field of grammar. And once you have noticed that this is about transition kind of question, you remember two steps for me. Firstly, read the before, and secondly, read the after. That's the important one bit. That's it, because you just need to read the before sentence and the after sentence. And remember, this is not a sentence. The comma is not a sentence, but the a period or a dot will be one sentence. This one is a sentence. So you're going to have to read this one and the sentence after. It's rain. All right. The sentence after. Okay. So just starting off with the first question, I will, because this is not really unfamiliar to you guys, so I'm going to ask you guys to do this right now. An, can you do the first question for me? E. What's that? E. B, did you say? Low?
Yeah.
All right, this one, you chose B. Let's see. Firstly, so we just gonna have to read the before and the after sentence, but in this case, it's very short. A paragraph is very short. So I'm gonna read from top to bottom. And please note there are some relations. Relationships are kind of question. Some relations directly linked to each transitions. So firstly you have contrast, right, and support, and neutral. Neutral meaning that you don't add and you don't object to any particular ideas, but you just sort of just listing out, just continuing with the flow of the paragraph. You're not doing anything, you're not directly contrasting or directly supporting anything. You just continue the conversation, right? That is essentially what neutral is. But in contrast and support, it will be more apparent. And just I would say contrast will be minus, support will be plus, and neutral will be 0, right? So we can do a bit better with the PoE. Iraqi artist Nazik al-Malaika, celebrated as the first Arabic poet to write in free verse, didn't reject traditional forms entirely. Her poem Elegy for a Woman of No Importance consists of 210-line stanzas and a standard number of syllables. Even in this superficially traditional work, al-Malaika was breaking new ground by memorializing an anonymous woman rather than a famous man. So this, how are you going to do this? You just read the before and after, and in this case, you have the comma. Let's see, just use common sense, and I guess that this is the sentence in question. And even in this superficially traditional work, meaning that this is traditional, but she was breaking new ground, right? So this essentially contradicting. So they are contrasting relationship. So in fact, therefore, moreover, these are all supporting relationship will be wrong. So though will be the only contrasting relationship. So though. Next up will be wait. Did we just gonna have we just walk through some very basic questions that I want you to look back, because I think you have done this already, or did I not? Yeah, let's do some notable questions. Let's see. 2 is too easy. Got the hat trick. 3, how about 3? Lena, can you do it? Oh, have I just thought it's Lena. Lena, can you answer this?
It's A.
Okay, A. Right. A, let's see. Because the Gordie Howe hat trick was a name, it was a title that it was given after a name, a famous hockey player, Gordie Howe. But he himself, you notice the word I used, but Howe only achieved this feat twice in his professional career, far fewer times than many other players. So he did it unremarkably, comparing to the other players. But his name is the title of this hat trick. So it would be a contradicting relationship. So however is good is contradicting. Therefore, it's not afterward as a result, it's not also. So yeah, A. Next one will be 4. Thumb, can you do it?
I choose D.
All right, D, let's see. Seismologists Kelvin Kwan and Barbara Romanovic have proposed that the magma fueling Iceland more than 30 active volcano systems emerges from deep within Earth. The great depths involved nearly 3,000 kilometers mark Iceland's volcanoes as extreme outliers. Many of Earth's volcanoes are fed by shallow pockets of magma found less than 15 kilometers below the surface. So many of Earth's volcanoes are fed by shallow pockets, so less than 15 kilometers, but these are extreme outliers. They are nearly 3,000 kilometers deep. So extreme outliers. I would say that these are supporting each other, right? Because many of Earth's volcanoes are fed by shallow pockets. And given that these Iceland's volcanoes are extreme outliers, meaning that they are very, very, very different from the others. So that will be very supporting. This should be supporting, not nevertheless, this is contradictory, right? Because look, let's recap. Most volcanoes are less than 15 kilometers deep, but Iceland volcanoes are extreme outliers because they are nearly 3,000 kilometers deep. So this is in fact correct. So they are supporting each other. So consequently is not correct because this will be a direct cause and relation, causing relation, reason and cause, yeah. It's not that Iceland volcanoes are extreme outliers that makes many of Earth's volcanoes deep, 15 kilometers deep. It's not that, it's just additional information. So A is not correct. And B and C is very, let's ponder about B and C. In addition, meaning that you add a different kind of information, the unknown information that we haven't mentioned before, that is in addition. But indeed, meaning that you are reaffirming the previously mentioned idea. So indeed, in this case, is more correct than D or B, right? So C indeed meaning that you're reaffirming that Iceland volcanoes are extreme, very extreme outliers because many of Earth's volcanoes are fed by shallow pockets, 15 kilometers deep. So C. All right. 5. Can you do this for me, An? A. All right, 5, he chose A. Let's see. For years, biologists have experimented with using grime-eating bacteria rather than harsh chemicals to clean artwork, and results have been impressive overall. These bacterial strains, which can metabolize centuries worth of oil, glue, dirt, and other surface impurities without creating harmful byproducts, have proven more effective than traditional chemical cleaning methods. Let's see, you chose A. Firstly, we can see that this will be a supporting relationship. It won't be a contradicting relationship. So, however, is wrong, and as a result is wrong because it's not because of this is not a directly causing relationship. Causation relationship is not. So C is not correct. Also, if you need further explanation, tell me. But in this case, it's very simple. But the fumbling point is between A and B. Additionally, or in many cases, because they both support and they both give out unknown information, not aforementioned information. So let's see. For years, biologists have experimented with using grime-eating bacteria rather than this. These bacteria strains, which can metabolize this, and have proven more effective than a traditional chemical cleaning methods. So you can see that the latter part, is sort of obviously supporting, but it's making clear of this one, of the aforementioned information. These bacteria strains have using grime-eating bacteria, right? So if I use additionally, that means I'm going to have to mention some sort of like unknown properties. For example, if I say that these bacteria strains are very common, or these bacteria strains are very cheap to produce, this will be additionally, because I'm providing an unknown information, right? But if I use in many cases, it means that I'm supporting the aforementioned information with some specific examples, some specific cases in many cases. So these bacteria have proven more effective than traditional chemical cleaning methods, meaning that I'm just reusing, recycling the aforementioned materials, recycling the aforementioned sentence, this one, to make it clearer. I'm not providing any unmentioned additional information. I'm just reaffirming, making clear of the previous sentence. So additionally won't be correct in this case. If I am to cross out in many cases, additionally might be considerable, but you have in many cases here, and this will be the same as, won't be directly the same, but it would be if, for example, no, it's not really. In this context, it can't be for example, but in some context, it will be equal to for example. But they have full right to give, for example, as another option, and this would be wrong because in this case, in many cases, and for example, won't be directly similar to each other. So, but in some other cases, it will be. So please note on that and keep an open mind. And in this case, additionally won't be correct, and B is the only answer, right? So let's recap, because the latter sentence is using what aforementioned information, which is I'm recycling the information from the previous sentence. So it means that I'm trying to make clear of the previous sentence by using its information, not adding anything else, not adding anything original. So I can't use additionally. That's how you're going to dissect a transition question, right? Each kind of transition, each kind of linking verb or linking transition, linking adverb will have a slightly different tone to it, and will have a slightly different connotation. So take note on these kinds of different layers of connotations, and then you will be able to sort of make a mind map perhaps, and then you kind of remember every single one. But of course, you're gonna have to carry out a lot practice in order to perfect this kind of skill. Right, 6, researchers believe that pieces, all right, 6, you answer this, Lina. This is kind of tricky, but please pay attention to 2 sentences, only 2 sentences.
Let's choose A.
Right, A, let's see. Researchers believe that pieces of hull found off Oregon's coast are from a Spanish cargo ship It was lost in 1697. Stories passed down among area's confederated tribes of Siletz. Indians support this belief. Siletz stories describe how blocks of beeswax, an item the ship had been carrying, began washing ashore after the ship was lost. Let's see. So how do you understand the A option, Lina? If I am to choose A, what will happen between these two sentences? Will this be the causation of this one? What do you think? Let's dissect each and every single one of these transitions, and first beginning with A. Your option, for this reason. What does for this reason mean? And if I am to place for this reason in a sentence, what about clause A, clause 1, and clause 2? Okay, if I am to place for this reason in between these two clauses, what would be the relationship between these two clauses?
Past result.
I'm sorry?
Past and result.
Cause and result, the causation. So this will be directly resulting into clause 2, right? So if the sentence 1 is placed before, it will be the direct causation of the sentence 2. But in this case, is this correct? Stories passed down among the area's confederated tribes of Siletz, because this story supports this belief. This story tells about this. Is it true? Because of this happened, that this becomes like this.
No.
Do you understand what I'm talking about? Because the first sentence happened because the Indians, the stories support this belief. It caused the stories to describe the blocks of beeswax. Is it correct?
No.
No, right? Because the story, regardless of whether or not this supports the belief, it's already happened. It's already is a story, right? So it can't morph, it can't change it to support this belief, and it won't make sense either. So A won't be correct. However, won't be too correct either, because this is a plus and this is a minus. Likewise, how do you think about likewise? If I use clause 1 and clause 2, what is the relationship between these two? Likewise. It's very apparent. It's basically like that, what the word says, likewise. Likewise, how do you think? If I put likewise in between two sentences, what will be the relationship between these two? It is quite similar to this word, alike, or similarly.
supporting.
Supporting, yes, but how are these going to be related to each other? They will be giving the same kind of information, right? The equivalent kind of information. So if clause 1 gives out A, clause 2 has to give out A plus or a comma or anything like that. It has to be similar to the previous sentence, right? That is how essentially likewise mean. Alike is the same, similarly is the same. If I am to put similarly, alike, and likewise in middle as a transition, it will result in the two sentences being directly relating to each other, which means that they are quite similar. They are the same. They give out the same kind of information. That is why the word likewise and similarly will become is the transition. All right. So how about, for example, if I give out, for example, the clause A, clause 2, and clause 1.
I think that clause 1 is more general and clause 2 will keep is more specific and support the clause 1.
Exactly. That is how you're going to explain it. Clause 1 is a bit more general, and clause 2 is specific in each cases. So that's correct. You get it. Right. So B means that it gives out specific instances of clause 1. So it's supporting, but it's different kind of supporting. Likewise is incorrect because sentence 1 and sentence 2, story passed down this, stories describe, they are describing or they're talking about different things. This is talking about how this story supports this belief. And secondly is about how the story is phrased. So they're not the same. And for this reason, I've explained it because the fact that the story passed down among support this belief doesn't mean that it directly caused the story to have blocks of beeswax and item the ship has been carrying. So A won't be correct either. C won't be correct because apparently this is supporting, evidently, and B will be the last answer. For example, so let's see how B is correct. Stories passed down from among this supports belief. Then, for example, you would assume that, for example, meaning to kickstart kind of a list, a phrase, or a list, right? But in this case, it's not a list. This is a specific instances, right? Like Lena said, however, doesn't mean that you for example, doesn't mean that you kickstart a phrase or an explanation or a list. It means that you narrow down or you give a specific instances about how and support the previous sentence. So select stories describe, meaning that it giving out a specific instance in which it supports this belief, right? It's quite difficult to understand at first, but just rewatch this part as many times as you like to understand this further. Just remember to understand the slightly different shades of meaning between these transitions, all right? Let's go to the last one and we'll go straight to the next kind of heated base. All right, 7, can you do this for me? Finish this for me, Tom.
A.
All right, let's see. Firstly, you have furthermore is A. What does furthermore mean? All right, firstly, let's see if this plus, minus, or 0 or neutral. supporting, contrasting, or neutral?
Supporting.
Supporting. So, what is the first one that you're going to cross out?
By contrast.
Exactly. By contrast, it will be the first one you're going to cross out because it is minus. Next up is, what does furthermore mean? If I put furthermore in the middle of two sentences, what will be the relationship between these two?
Like the latter sentence will support the former one. Like
Right,
set an example.
Example, really?
No, it's
It mentioning an information, and has that information been mentioned before in a previous sentence? When I use furthermore.
Can you repeat the question?
All right, so if I use furthermore, and I'm saying this, the last sentence, the second sentence, will it mention some information that the supporting information that has been mentioned before?
Yes.
This one is the same with additionally. And additionally, you mentioned some information that hasn't been mentioned before. All right. So if I say furthermore, I'm going to list or I'm going to explain something that has not been explained before. Right. This is how furthermore is different with likewise, similarly, and for example, meaning that or in many cases, meaning that you're going to have to use or recycle the previous information. But when I use furthermore or additionally, I'm going to mention something that is not being mentioned before and just using something completely new, right? So furthermore, recap, you will mention, or additionally, you will use some information that has not been mentioned in the previous sentence to support it, all right? How about similarly? I just said it. Similarly?
Is that an example?
No, similarly is the same as likewise. You see, transition is not really easy when it comes to digital SAT. I haven't seen you guys done correctly for the last 3 questions, so pay close attention. Similarly, how about it? Similarly is the same, alike, similarly, likewise. You haven't been listening, have you? All right, let me just explain this one last time. Similarly, meaning that you give out the 2 sentences will have a directly kind of similar. You mentioned something very similar, that's called similarly, right? So you give out 2 sentences. If this is the transition, the sentence previous and the sentence after, they will mention the 2 same thing. They will say the 2 same things. For example, if I'm talking about how a calculator is very useful, right? Similarly, a calculator can do this, do that. Or similarly, I can say that a calculator is very useful. Similarly, a pen, no, that's not really a good example. A calculator, a Casio calculator is very useful. Similarly, a Texas Instrument calculator is also useful. Like that's similar, they're talking about the same thing, right? So that is essentially the similarity. They're talking about similarly. How about that is essentially you're going to explain, right? In other words. That is the same with in other words. So this one, you can see that in a heated debate in biogeography, the field in divided between this one and a Vicarious assist, something like this. And I don't really understand what these means. But in the latter sentence, there are those who argue that dispersal is the most crucial determining factor in species distribution, and those who insist that vicariance separation due to geographic barriers is. So they're explaining what a vicariancist and dispersalist are. They're explaining it. That means that they're using the word that is, or they're using in other words. Right? You see, it's very difficult. So you're going to have to pay close attention. So if you haven't got it, haven't let that sunk in, I'm suggesting you rewatch this part as many times as you like, because I'm recording this as many times as you like to get a closer, more attentive grasp so that you can be a bit more attentive, right? So this will be very difficult if you don't pay close attention enough, because it's not at all easy. So the remaining two and from 8 to 15, I will gonna have you do homework, right? And we will jump to the next next part of the transition. Why is it repeating? I don't know. So I'm going to have you do transition as a homework for next lesson. I'm going to post it on Classroom. But now let's jump to a bit more breathable, something is a bit more easier, breathable. I was planning to teach you guys word in context, which is a vocabulary question, but it's a bit more difficult than transitions. So I'm not going to teach that right now, because I find that you guys have already had a hard time already. So let's see. I believe transition, we have walked through this before, but you guys still haven't get it. So I would say that rewatch that part as many times as you like, and try to do the remaining questions as accurately as possible, right? Okay, structure, sense, form. This is basically punctuation, and this is the basis of grammar. And you're going to have to memorize. You do not have the right to make this wrong, right? This is very simple, and this will subtract the most points out of your score if you are to make this wrong. So do not make any mistake on this one. You are allowed to make mistakes when preparing, when in preparation, but do not be distracted and make this wrong in a test. The key here is standard English, convention of standard English or anything like that. It's very recognizable and it's very simple. So the first question, I would do it for you guys. And hang on a sec, let me just open my document right here. Okay, so the first question, when they were first discovered in Australia in 1798, duck-billed, beaver-tailed platypuses so defied categorizations that one scientist assigned them the name something, paradoxus, a paradoxical bird snout. The animal which lays eggs, but also nurses something, young with milk, has since been classified as belonging to the monotremes group. So there's a lot of scientific junkies right here, and I don't really fully understand it, but do not be afraid of it, because this is what the SAT does. It gives you a lot of words, a lot of junkies that you don't really have to understand, but focus on the requirements of the question. They're asking for the convention of standard English. So it's very simple. It's young. That's it. That's essentially it. Sometimes you don't really even have to read the whole paragraph if you are quick. So for example, the second one, let's say I just find that this is the convention of standard English kind of question. So I just walk through the options: promote, are promoting, have promoted. If you guys are quick, you can see that only this one has a singular form, whereas this one has a plural. This one is also plural. This one is also plural. So this is one of the common cases of the SAT. So let's see. The African Games production market, one of 180 annual international conferences. So 2 is, you see, this is a modifier. Look, this is just a supporting clause. So you just, it's non-essential. So I'm going to cross them out and I'm going to choose A because the subject is singular. So this is one of the very, very common trick in the book, the very old trick in the book of the SAT book. So it's, don't be fooled by this question, guys. Next one will be 3, 4, and 5. Yeah, 3 and 4. Let's do it. Anne, can you do it? 3 and 4. Firstly, do 3. B. Exactly. What is the subject?
Tools.
Such tools, right? This is plural, right? Jump to 4. You guys type in the answer in the chat section because I want to know if you guys still remember this, still remember what this kind of question is. Quickly come up with your own question. Answer, I'm sorry.
C.
C. Let's see. Do you still remember what this kind of question is? This kind of structure? What is this structure? Would you call this? This is the same with this one. And this one is directly supporting the word right after it. And what is this called?
The modifier.
Exactly, a modifier. So this is talking about a nearly frictionless state. So is it when, the nearly frictionless state? Can it be when? It's supporting the word right after it, the word or phrase right after it. So what choice would it be? This is a modifier. So The word right after the comma or right before the comma will be a nearly frictionless state. And what is it? What's that? Exactly. And what is the word I'm talking about? What is a nearly frictionless state?
Superlubricity.
Super lubricity. Exactly. Super lubricity is the word in question. So a nearly frictionless state, it can't be reaching, right? It can't be. It can't be two surfaces, and it also can't be when. So B is the only correct answer. All right, pretty good. You guys still remember it. And 5, 6. Can you do it, Lina? It's very simple. Do it quickly.
D.
5 is
D.
D. So to find out whether or not the tense is correct, you're going to have to look for the verbs, the nearest verbs. And can you tell me what the nearest verb is?
Praised.
Let's see. Word surprising. Look, had run, but historians have praised it, noting that. So this is just a modifier. It's just like a supporting clause. It non-essential. Oh no, this is a entire different clause. Have praised it. So you're gonna have to look on a bigger context. In this case, it's very tricky. This is a very difficult question indeed. Have praised is present, but the words surrounding it, the verbs surrounding it, they are all in past. Had run was surprising. They're all in past. So what does it mean? This is a different time frame, but we're talking about Lincoln. Lincoln lived. He is not living anymore. He lived. He had lived and had died long before in 1860 in the past era. So this will be D, right? So if you're too mechanical, you're too systematic, you're going to make this wrong. But if you just open your mind a little and be a bit more observant to the surrounding context, you'll be able to choose to circle out the D. All right, very good. 6, how about 6? A, let's see. To join, exactly. Left verb or something, doing something or something like that. To join, to verb infinitive, meaning to. This is to indicate purpose. So it is A. It's very simple. Next one is 7, 8. Can you do it for me, though?
C.
7C. Let's see. In 1994, almost 200 years after the death of Wang something, the International Astronomical Union. All right, C. Okay, so A and B, they are wrong, obviously, because this is an essential part of the sentence, and you cannot cross the International Astronomical Union out because this is a defining clause. So it's very important. A and B, they are out. And D, how about D? To finally acknowledge. This is wrong because if this is the case, it won't be a form of a sentence, S plus V, right? So every sentence in English, it has to have this form, S plus V, unless the author is do it on purpose to make the sentence somewhat special, to dramatize the sentence. But on the SAT, it won't happen, so don't worry about that. So D is also wrong. C is the correct answer. All right. How about A? 8.
B.
8. Is it B or D?
B.
B, right? Developed. Let's see. Florence, it was there that it appears a piece that was praised for blending traditional around this, and all right. When it comes to end, what is the kind of structure that comes into your mind? What is it? When I say end, what's the first thing? This happens in end and in lists. If I have end, verb, noun, noun, adjective, adjective, what's this? You still remember it? So can you just describe for me what happens when I use end? These one have to be the same, right? Verb has to be the same, past, future, and present, they have to be the same. If I use gerund, the other part will also be gerund. So this is parallel, right? Just remember it. Parallelism. All right. Do you still remember this stuff? Okay, so a quick reminding. All right. So Lina, you did great. That is correct. Parallel, and this one is. So when I use parallelism, many of you used it unknowingly, but I want you to have a degree of certainty, right? So premiered, it was there that she premiered her first symphony, and something parallel to the premiere, meaning the past, simple past tense. So you used be, developed. So this is correct, but I want you to understand why you did well, why you did correctly, right? So next time when you encounter a question yourself first. Why did I choose this? So if you haven't come up with your own answer yet, ask me or ask anyone again, because coming up with the answer is not the last step. It's only the beginning of finding out the true knowledge. All right. So take note on that. I'm going to, there's some times left. I'm going to briefly mention the word in context so that I can give it to you as homework, right? So let me import the lesson. Word in context, it's basically a vocabulary question. It's nothing difficult. Firstly, this needs no introduction. You've done this so many times before, so I'm just going to have to focus. You guys focus on this specific kind of question. Start off with the first question, will you? Right, C. Okay, let's see. There's one clue, which is the comma. Oh, no, a colon. I'm sorry. This is a colon, so it supports the idea that's directly before it. So don't lose there's something natural when printed. Colon, meaning that they're explaining why they don't lose there's something when printed. The language has the same pleasant musical quality on the page as it does when performed by Phi. Pleasant musical quality. So Bell Phi's collection, Song I Sing, something, something. I don't need to read this, but I have this colon. All right. This colon says that this has the same pleasant musical quality. So it can't be jarring. Jarring is very annoying, right? Jarring is incorrect. Scholarly is also incorrect. So melodic is the one I'm looking for. Exactly. Next one, too. Can you do this for me, Lina?
C.
You chose C. C, prestige, meaning that's something very high quality. Prestigious. It's like high quality. Do you understand the meaning of this word? The word prestige initially, do you know this word? Okay, so when it comes to this quality, what are they talking about? What are they talking about by this quality? Can you rephrase it for me? If I use this, I must be referring to something, right? So what is this?
Resourcefulness of movement.
Exactly. The resourcefulness of movement that's so peculiarly American is this quality. And can it be prestige? Can it be accomplishment? They can't be accomplishment. They can't be something prestigious, can it? This is something, a perspective, just a property of a person. So it's more like a characteristic of someone rather than an achievement, right? So it can't be C or D. It has to be A. So look, when they use the word this essentially they're giving us a clue, just like Collins. They're giving us clues so that this quality, or they're explaining, they guiding us towards something, to somewhere we should be looking for the clue. And this quality, they're talking about resourcefulness of movement that's so peculiarly American. It's about something special about him. It's something about his characteristic. It's not about his achievement, right? So this has to be a characteristic. Have you got this, Lina? Okay, so don't be mistaken again, because prestige and accomplishment require something that has to be very high standard, but characteristic is about each person. It's about personal, right? So this quality. Right, next one is oof. Okay, Tom, can you do this for me?
from B.
Let's see. You see there's a colon here. There's a colon here, so it's explaining the previous clause here, the previous sentence. It explained the previous idea. So the main focus, the clue that we are going to have to look for here is after the colon. So when it comes to a word in context, right? So it's not the words we're looking for, it's the context. We have to look for the clues within the context itself. So in this case, the colons, so we have to look for the clues after the colons because it's the clue. And in this case, this quality, so we're going to have to look for what this quality means. Look before it. So this is the clue. And in this case, the colon appears again. And you see, bees will forage beyond patches of low species richness to acquire multiple resource type. So this will be the clue. But if you don't come up with it yet, you can obviously skip, reread the entire paragraph. In this case, I don't understand it yet, so I'm going to read the whole thing. Some foraging models predict that the distance bees travel when foraging will decline as forage density increases, but biologists Shane Cha and Claire Kremen showed that bees' behavior is inconsistent with this prediction. If flowers in dense patches are something, bees will forage beyond patches of low species richness to acquire multiple resource types. So this is inconsistent. So they are contradicting to the previous prediction. What is the previous prediction? We just look for it again. The distance they travel will decline as the floral density increases. So floral density meaning that the concentration of floral, it increases. So dense patches are something you chose depleted, homogeneous, immature, or dispersed. Bees will forage beyond patches of low species richness to acquire multiple resource types. All right, so this is a very difficult question indeed. Look, if they talk about low species richness, they will forage beyond low species richness. So they are foraging beyond a distance that's farther than the dense patches. So the dense patches is still increasing, all right, but they still travel further. It is this is directly contradicting the prediction before. The bees' travel will decline as floral density increases. In this case, the floral densities is still there. Dense patches are something that will make the bee travel farther away. So there's one key, low species richness to acquire multiple resource type. So they traveling beyond patches of density, of a high density, but with low species richness. So the word we're looking for right here, if in dense patches that are low in species richness. So this is the word in question. All right. What's low species in richness? That is it immature? No. Is it dispersed? Let's see. Is it depleted? It won't be, because let's see, homogeneous or dispersed. If you don't know what homogeneous means, let's see what dispersed means. Dispersed means that it is not dense. In this case, a dense patch, it can't be dispersed, right? This is very directly contradictory. So you can't use a dense patch that are dispersed. So D won't be the most sensible one. But homogeneous, what does homogeneous mean? Homogeneous means it's the same on every side. So essentially it means that the species, they are the same at everywhere. It's the same low species richness, meaning that they essentially in this group, you have everything is the same. So that's homogeneous. Homogeneous is similar every side, everywhere. That is homogeneous. Okay, so B is the correct answer. Very good. This question is very difficult. So if you don't know where to look for, where to start, it will take a heavy toll on you because it will be very difficult. Just start with the most obvious clues. And if you still don't get it, read from the beginning, right? So the word in context kind of questions are very difficult. in essence, but there's nothing that you can't do. So prepare for the practice test 1 by doing these kind of questions. So I did give you 3 examples of word in context. So I'm going to give you the rest as homework because the file I've already published it on Google Classroom. So feel free to overdo it. Feel free to do it if you like. And yeah, that's basically it. Remember to rewatch this, especially on the transition part. Rewatch this as many times as you want, as you need, all right, to kind of get a clearer sense of what a transition is, of what each transition serves, each purpose of each transition that I'm stumbling words here, the purpose of each transition. Okay. So yeah, this is very difficult. This is a very difficult session, but I hope you have got something out of this. And this is just the beginning of a very arduous journey. So I hope you're going to be more cautious on this. And I hope you're going to be a bit more like attentive on the lessons. All right. No distraction. And remember, you're going to have a very big test examination at the end of the week. All right. Do you guys have any more questions? If you don't, I would assume the class ends now. I wish you guys have a great day and say hi to your brother for me, yeah? Okay, have a nice day. See you again.